Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to the Sweetwater Minute. This time out, new features in PreSonus Studio One 3.2. Let's get started. Today we're checking out some of the new features in the latest update to Studio One, which is version 3.2. Now, PreSonus has included some really cool stuff in this update. It's a free update, but we still get some great new features. One of the coolest new features is mix engine effects. Now, essentially what this is a way for a plugin to come in and replace the internal mix engine, the internal summing engine. So for example, you could have one summing engine that's basically adding up all your tracks for your drums, and you could make that a gritty summing engine. And then you could use a clean summing engine to mix your vocal tracks or string tracks or something where you want to have a more pristine audio quality. At this point, PreSonus has released one mix engine effects called Console Shaper, and we'll take a look at that in just a second. But there'll be more mix engine effects on the way from third-party manufacturers as well. There are several ways you can instantiate a new mix engine effects. You can go to your Browse menu, select Effects, and Mix Effects are here at the top. Open that up and we've got our Console Shaper, and as usual you could drag that and put that onto a track in your mixer. We can also, with the mixer open, create a new bus, open up its processing, and here at the top we now have mix effects. There's none instantiated right now, but we can select Console Shaper and that will open right up. Now, Console Shaper gives us control over drive, which is basically harmonic distortion. We can also add noise in, and we can set the amount of crosstalk between the channels. You can insert mix engine effects on any bus. So here I put it on a bus that was mixing 3 of our drum channels. We could also come over here, we'll close this, and we could add it on the master output. So if we open it up, mix effects at the top, select Console Shaper, and we can add that there as well. Now, when there are additional mix engine effects available, we could have different ones on the different buses, as I was mentioning earlier, a gritty one on the drums, a clean one on the vocals, a clean one on your master outs. So you can mix and match those as you choose. At this point, we've got Console Shaper, and it really does add that analog flavor to your mixes. It's basically the same type of thing that happens when you run out to an external hardware summing box, but you have more flexibility because it's a plug-in inside the DAW itself. Another new feature in Studio One 3.2 is VCA faders. A VCA fader basically allows you to remote control another fader. Let's check out how this works. So I'm going to select my drum tracks again. I've got 3 of those here. And we will add a VCA fader for selected channels. And when I move the VCA fader, I move all 3 of the drum faders, and you can see that they maintain their perspective or their ratio between the different levels on the faders. We can still access independent faders and move those as we like. And what's different about using a VCA versus using a submix is we're still routing all 3 of those drum channels to our main outputs. We could have them routed to different outputs, to different subgroups, we could have them bust wherever we wanted, and the VCA allows us to remote control them yet retain their perspective. If we were going through a submix, all of those channels would be routed through that same aux bus, so the routing would have to be just through that stereo bus. There have been some big enhancements to the user interface as well. For example, the arrow multi-tool has been enhanced. You can see that when we're on a track, the arrow tool stays an arrow tool for selecting things on the bottom half of the track or the waveform. When we go to the top, it becomes the range tool for selecting a range. If we go to the left or right, it allows us to change the length. And if we go to an upper corner on an audio track, we can set fade in, fade out. And the same thing on an instrument track. We've got the arrow at the bottom, pointer at the top, and then right and left length. This means that you can maintain using one tool when you're doing most of your editing. It makes things even faster and more efficient. And then with the feature that Studio One has where you can select a second alternate tool by simply hitting the command button, it makes it very easy to have all your editing tools right under your fingertips. Tracks in Studio One consist of the main take that's playing back, but you can also have layers underneath that. You can use those layers for comping tracks or for selecting among different takes. PreSonus has made some enhancements to how layers work though. For example, you can now solo individual layers, and you can also move ranges between layers. This makes comping even faster. For audio tracks, tab to transients has been enhanced. So let's double click this to open the editor, and if we select a location here, we can tab through as usual. But now, if you hold the shift key while you're tabbing, you're extending a range, very handy. If you hold the command and hit backspace, you'll move backward through the transients. And shift command backspace will shorten our selection. For quick navigation, PreSonus has added a play start marker, and this basically sets where playback is going to start when you're working through a session. There have also been some nice enhancements to automation inside Studio One 3.2. So let's check out our audio track here. Now we'll turn automation on. We'll display volume automation in this case. Now the cool thing here is that the arrow tool again becomes a multi-tool. As we move up, it turns into a trimmer. And this allows us to trim between 2 points. So we can move this up and down very easily, very quickly. We can also select, of course, as before, we can move a range of different points, very fast and very easy way to manipulate the automation within an audio track. We also can do range trim, where we select a range and now use our trimmer, and the entire thing will be trimmed as we move up and down with the cursor. One of my favorite new features in Studio One 3.2 is the ability to drag an instrument track part onto an audio track and have it instantly converted into audio. Let me show you how this works. So we'll add an audio track here. Now if I select an instrument part and drag it onto that audio track, it'll be rendered immediately into audio. Now I can mute my part or remove it completely, play back, and I've got my tambourine part here. If you're using one of the Studio Live mixers, whether a Studio Live AI or a Studio Live RM, new features in Studio One 3.2 allow you to remote control features inside those consoles. For example, you can take charge of the X-Max preamps from right inside Studio One 3.2. This is really handy when you're recording. You can also access the FAT channel from inside Studio One 3.2. That's another great feature for taking advantage of the power of those consoles. As with previous versions, Melodyne is included with Studio One version 3.2. But the cool thing is, Melodyne recently released version 4 of Melodyne, and that version is now included with Studio One. That's just a quick look at some of the new features inside of Studio One 3.2. Lots and lots of new things here. Something like 50 new enhancements and features have been added to this version. Be sure to check this out if you're a Studio One user, if you're thinking about switching DAWs. These new features make Studio One even easier to use, even faster to use. You can be even more productive with it now. I'm really enjoying this latest version of Studio One. Thanks for joining me for the Sweetwater Minute. I'm Mitch Gallagher.